Hi, welcome back to the Copycat Stitch podcast. It's been a little while. I don't really have a schedule for how to do these yet. I kind of just wait until I have enough stuff, to talk about. And this time I was waiting and then kind of a lot of stuff happened at once, so I have a lot today. But I'm Bailey. I'm the Copycat Stitch here on YouTube and on Instagram. This is my newly finished Honey Bop cardigan, but we'll get to that. I have a handful of acquisitions, but not a lot because I've, not been buying yarn until October. And I have a lot of finished objects. Again, I'm not going to show them all because there's a lot, but I've got some stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. Firstly, because I'm the most excited about this is my finished Honey Bop cardigan. I'm so proud of it. I've never knit such a large garment out of fingering weight yarn, and I'm just very proud of myself. It's a little wonky. There's some stuff that didn't go to plan, but overall it's gorgeous. The fabric blocked to a much softer, much nicer material than it was before blocking. That said, it grew a lot when I blocked it. Especially in the shoulders, I'm having an issue. There's these really cute little puff sleeves, and they really should be inset a lot more, but maybe I made the wrong size. I feel like I started this so long ago, and my size has changed a little bit that, I don't know. I do love it, but I don't love the fit so much because it's not perfect. It is a lot better when it's buttoned up. When it's unbuttoned, these it's almost drop shoulder because this is so deep. They just kind of fall down and it doesn't look great. But I do love the material. I love the yarn and the color and my shiny little vintage pink buttons that I added to it. And I'm very proud. It took a very long time and it was very small needles, and it's definitely the most time-intensive project that I've ever finished. I'm very pleased to be done with it. This was one of the last projects remaining for my UFO challenge, which is not done yet, but I've made so much progress. I actually only have 3 projects left from the original list. I have started to make new projects, still working on the old ones, but I have all 3 of the in progress ones here for status checks. So let's talk about those. This is my jute stitch blanket, very nearly done. I've just been working on this solid kind of rusty brown section for a while now, which is supposed to be half the blanket, and it really nearly is. I just need, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 more inches. It's kind of tedious, but it's good for TV knitting. I've been working on it a lot the past couple days, and it's coming along. It's meant to be a throw blanket for in here, probably to put on this chair. So let's preview that, because the colors in here are kind of natural colors and mint. So, it's meant to go in here as a throw blanket and inevitably just get destroyed by cats. But right now it looks nice. Can't wait to bind this off. We go on vacation in like 2 days, and I'm hoping that if I keep pushing myself, I might be able to finish this one beforehand. I did start a vacation project that I'm going to talk about to bring with me while I travel, and I'm really tempted to work on that all the time because it's new and exciting, but I have been trying to force myself to keep knitting on this one in the meantime, just to knock it out. Over there. All right. So definitely the hardest thing for my UFO project is this temperature blanket. It is moving so slowly. I have put tons of work into it. It's not like I'm not trying or like procrastinating, but it's just slow going. So right now I think it's caught up through like August. This is, I should say, 2021's temperature blanket. So I chose a very tedious and not super fun for me pattern. It looks nice. I like these mitered squares that are two-toned. The smaller one would be the low temperature for the day, and this larger L-shaped part of the square would be the high temperature for the day. And you can kind of start to see the variation here from all these blues in January to these reds and purples in the summertime. I like how it's looking, but I just hate working on it so much, and it's so overwhelming because I'm so behind. So I guess I do have about 75% of the squares done. So I'm, you know, getting close there, but then I have to do a border around the edge, so it's not quite 3/4 done overall. I'm not really working on this one as regularly. I did for a while put like a lot of work into it, and I was doing it like constantly every time I had a day off, like forcing myself to sit down and work on this for hours and hours. And usually my goal was to do like 1 row that day, and 1 row is 17 squares. But like I said, the squares are so tedious. I generally don't like projects where there's a lot of seaming involved. I don't mind like sweaters that are made in panels and you have to seam together, but like I don't like granny square projects. Even though I like making the actual granny squares and I like the way that they look in the end, I really, really hate seaming like a bunch of squares together at the end of something. So these don't have to be seamed together, but because they're joined as I go, but it's still kind of the same tedium. And I do have to weave in all the ends as I go. And since they're 2-tone squares, there are 4 ends for each teeny tiny square. So, you know, every time I do a row of 17, that's 68? I don't know, whatever. It's a lot of ends, and it's tedious. But I absolutely have to weave them in as I go, because if I did all of this, can you even imagine if I hadn't woven them in? Like, thousands of ends. Whatever. I'll get it done, but I'm not super motivated right now. Maybe after I finish the jute stitch blanket and the other like UFO project I have, and this is like the last thing standing in my way of victory, maybe then I'll be a lot more motivated, but today I'm not. The other one that is still an outstanding UFO, but there's been a ton of progress on it. I'm pretty sure last time I talked about it, I was still like on the little neck yoke. Maybe not, maybe I had gotten farther. But now, on my Primavera sweater, I have finished the entire body and one of the sleeves, and it's damn cute. Like, look at these. I love these sleeves and the, you know, the puffy sleeve, or that tapers down around the cuff. This yarn is so soft. I can't believe, like, I think it's super underrated, and it's discontinued now, which kind of saddens me, but also I bought a ton of it when it went on clearance, so I'll be okay. I have enough for a while. It's Lion Brand FOMO. This colorway is peach. It's kind of not peachy. It's really quite a dusty pink, but I've been holding it double to make the Primavera sweater, which as a pattern I think calls for you to hold mohair triple, but the FOMO is a little denser than regular mohair, so I just decided to go with double, and I think it went really well. It's so soft. I know it's just acrylic, and it's, you know, as the name says, faux mohair, but it really creates such a nice material. It's beautiful. I'm so glad that I bought so much of it, and honestly they were insanely cheap. I got it from Lion Brand's website, and I think it was like one of those times when they had an extra discount on top of all of the existing clearance prices, and these ended up being like $1.15 a skein or something. I bought so many. I have it in a lot of colors. You can see on my Ravelry stash, which is as always linked below. I have, from here I can see 4 more colorways, and I bought huge quantities of all of them because they were so cheap. So I'm very much looking forward to making like other sweaters out of it, because this is like the perfect material for fuzzy winter sweaters, because it's acrylic, so it's going to insulate possibly too well, but it's actually super soft, unlike so many acrylic yarns, especially at this price point. All right, so let's talk about some things that I've started new. I did, you know, in the beginning when I started my UFO project, I was trying to only work on the UFOs, and I did for a while. I mean, honestly, I had like 20 or something. I had a lot, and now I'm down to 3. So I'm very proud of myself for my progress so far. I did fastidiously work on just those for a long time, but now I'm down to the ones that are the most time consuming, the most tedious, and I really needed some more variety. And also fall knitting is here, and you know, the ones that I had are not particularly good for on the go, so not even like proper travel, but just knitting at baseball games like I like to do, or in the car when we're going somewhere. So I did start my Lexington cowl, which is a pattern, well here I have the printed pattern, from Blue Sky Fibers. And I actually bought this when we were on our road trip earlier this year, and we stopped at a yarn store in Lexington. And I thought it was the perfect souvenir. So I picked out 3 yarns in Lexington, whoops, to make the Lexington cowl. And here's where we are so far. It's linen stitch, and it alternates 2 rows of each color between 3 colorways. And there's just this established stripe pattern, which I have just about 1 repeat. You can see over here, this stitch marker here is the marker for the end of repeat. You're supposed to do 4 repeats overall. I did pick out all this stuff in Lexington, pick up the pattern at the yarn store in Lexington, and then not look at it for a couple months. And when I picked it up a few weeks ago and started to do it, I realized that the pattern calls for 2 hanks of each color, and I literally bought 1 hank of each color, which means I can't make the whole thing. So I decided to try to cut down on the circumference. I think I took 20 stitches out of the cast on number to try to shorten the circumference just a little bit and stretch that yarn a little further vertically. It doesn't say, it's, you know, a pattern from a yarn company, so they never give you enough information for substitution because that's not their intent. It just says to get 2 hanks of each. So I'm wondering if it's one of those kind of standard yarn company little tricks where they have you use just like a little touch of a second hank so that then you have that left over and you end up buying more to make another project. I'm hoping so. I think it won't be that bad. I mean, this has already got a lot of height, and I'm certainly not even halfway through the 3 hanks that I do have. So at the very least, I can double and then some. And that's, you know, maybe not the tallest cowl, but I think I'm just going to keep going until I run out, you know. So I have 2 colors of, what is the yarn? It's the Blue Sky Fibers Alpaca Silk. Oops. I got these 2. And these are colorway Papaya and Plume. This one, the blue is Plume. And then when I was in the store, I wanted to add a variegated one also, so I kind of walked around the whole store, and I ultimately came up with this one, which has touches of both in them, but it's this like very muted, beautiful rainbow. And it actually is a rainbow. You kind of can't tell in a hank or in a cake, but when I cast on, since this is color A for me, when I cast on, you might be able to kind of see on the cast on edge here. It actually is in rainbow order. It doesn't come through in the linen stitch for the whole project. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but just along the cast on edge, it does go in like Roy G. Biv order, and it was so pretty to see the cast on stitches on the needles. But like I said, since it's linen stitch and it's alternating colors, you can't really see it for the rest of it because they get spread out too much. But I didn't say that this beautiful, like hand-painted guy is from Koigu wool. It's KPPPM, which I don't remember what that stands for, but when I was on Ravelry, I saw it, and it's like something painted, whatever. It's painted yarn. And so pretty. So I do love how it's coming out. I like the stripe pattern. I'm glad I went with the variegated one because I do think it adds a lot of interest in between the 2 solids. And this is the one that I've been taking to ball games and to, you know, just out and about for now. Okay, another one that I started is for a knit along that I kind of impulsively joined because I was like feeling the fall spirit. It's Autumn Doodle Cowl. Oh, who did it? My goodness. I'm sorry, I forgot the designer who made it. There's so many pages. Okay, okay. I'm sure the designer's on the screen right now. There you are. This is the Autumn Doodle Cowl, which is like a super fun way to do it because it comes with all sorts of little charts that are either fall or Halloween themed like this. This is a Halloween page. And you are intended to, she kind of gives guidelines for, you know, stitch counts and everything, but then she's like, okay, pick out a bunch of charts and they should be around this row range to get the height you need, and you go for it. So I picked out all of these and placed them in this order, and I went with all fall ones, so they're like leaves and acorns and pumpkins. It's such a cute idea to be able to mix and match. I have a whole bunch of yarns in here, and they're pretty messy because one day I forgot this was out and left it in range of my dog when I left the house. So when I came home, there was just yarn spread all over. She had absolutely decimated the needles it was on. They were just a pair of like fixed circulars. It was bamboo needles. I'm not heartbroken about those, but she did also unravel. So this row, let's look at my chart here, is the acorn, I believe. Yep. So this yellow row that I have up here, there's no needles right now because I still haven't picked it up and, you know, fixed it since the dog destroyed it. But this like band with the acorn pattern had been done and quite a few rows higher, but you know, with the dog running around the house, she had pulled the cord out of some of them and was pulling on the yarn as she, I assume, ran ecstatic laps because she found some really cool new toys. Unraveled a portion of it, but I ripped it back to a spot where it's even and both colors are at the same point, so I can pick up the stitches and fix it. But for now, I've got this like very dark but muted fall project, and I don't know. It's not normally my thing. I don't do a lot of color work, but I thought it looked fun, and they have the knit along, and I just kind of did it spur of the moment. So I have a bunch of yarns in here. This yellow one, literally no idea what it is. It was from a thrift store and it had no labels on it. So I had 2 skeins of that. I had 3 skeins of this Bernat Wool Up, which as part of the Canadian Heritage Collection ended up at Christmas tree shops here in America. So I got, these were also cheap. I had 3 hanks of this. I'm sure that I'm going to have a lot left over. I had 1 of this Patton's Alpaca blend. And then from Knit Crate, there was 2 of the Odine Wools flannel in the colorway Buffalo. And these are, I think, fingering. I was holding it double. No, these are DK. What am I talking about? But the rest of them are worsted, or I think this Patton's is even bulky. Yeah, so it's kind of a mix match. But because the color work is so tight, it hasn't been an issue that I'm kind of mixing yarn weights. It's very thick. Kind of wonder if it'll even be useful in fall, which is funny because it's like this hyper fall motif, and it might only be useful as a winter scarf because it's like very thick, but also it's a cowl knit in the round, so it's like double. New York fall is never really, it's like, you know, like a lot of places. It goes from summer to winter to summer to winter to winter. And then there's like a smattering of fall days thrown in the middle that are kind of cool. So I don't know that there will ever be an opportunity to actually like wear this, but this is more of a process piece for me. I just really wanted to play with mixing and matching all the little motifs and really get into the fall spirit. You know, I did recently release the 2 videos about finishing making all my Halloween decor and decorating, so like I'm not going to include those finished pieces, but I did also, you know, crochet around the edges of the 2 fleece blankets and knit that little candy corn pillow and crochet my kind of freeform spider web garland. So check out that video if you haven't seen it, because that was really fun. But that did take a lot of my time, so that's why I wasn't doing a lot of this. And then once I was surrounded by my Halloween decorations, and I've got like the little LED candles and the flickering lights everywhere, I was like, I want to knit something like so fall. And that's how I ended up starting that cowl. But Like, I feel like I have a lot going on, but now that I'm looking at it all laid out, I'm like, my whips are kind of tame. They're very under control right now. I have 3 from the UFO project, and then I have like 3 that are newer, and that's all. That's not too bad, especially for me. I'm an extremely polygamous knitter, and I usually have a billion things, as I'm sure you've noticed. So, this one is the one that I started for my travel coming up. We are going on vacation very soon. Today is Wednesday. We are leaving on Friday night. We're going to Universal Studios, as we do every year for the Halloween Horror Nights event. I say every year. We went last year. We're going this year. We're planning on going every year from now on. But so far, we've gone one time. But I wanted to bring a nice fall knit that's mostly stockinette that I can work on, you know, in the car, because we live in Syracuse, New York, but our friends live in New Jersey, so we drive down to Jersey and fly out of Newark with them. So it's a really long car ride, and then a decent plane ride on both ends of the trip. And then also, I'm going to be there for a week. I'm not going to do a lot. I'm not nitty natty. I'm not going to be bringing knitting projects to knit while I'm waiting in line at the theme park, because even though it's tempting, I hope I'm never waiting in lines that long. I'm only going to Disney for one day, so I'm not planning on bringing anything with me to the park. So I've just got this sweater that I maybe might work on in the hotel room, but it's mostly for the car and plane rides on either end of the trip. This is called the Sweet Dreams Pullover. It's from 2019 issue of, or I think it was the fall 2019 issue of Interweave. It's a little bunched up on my needles right now, but you can see the turtleneck and the circular yoke is underway. I told myself I was just going to cast on and get started, you know, so I had something to work on in the car. And then I told myself, well, I should finish the ribbing, because if I make a mistake on the ribbing, it's going to be hard to see, because we're driving down Friday night in the dark, which is not impossible. The leaf sweater that is part of the UFO project that I actually finished by now. I don't remember if I showed that on here or not, but I did finish it and I've been wearing it. I knit the entire back panel of that in the car on the way to New Jersey in the dark last year, so I know I can do it, but I convinced myself that I should just keep going and finish the ribbing so that I can just work in stockinette while I'm in the car. And then I got to the circular yoke and I convinced myself, well, I should just, you know, get past all the increases so that I'm just knitting in the round plain stockinette in the car, and that's where I ended up. So I genuinely just intended to cast on a few rows just to get started, and I'm already this addicted that honestly, I only cast this on like 3 or 4 days ago, and I'm this far down, and you can't even see how big it is, but this is all the increases that you need for the yoke, and then I need to knit even for like 20 some rows. So that I'll do in the car on the way to New Jersey and on the plane, you know, and then at a point where I need to separate for the sleeves and do the body, I think that's just like the perfect amount of attention that I need for a travel knit. So I think I'm at a great place with this, and I'm going to do my best for the next 2 days to not work on this at home and to try to keep working on that jute stitch blanket, because even though this one's calling to me, I really just need to finish the UFO projects and not fall in love with these newer whips and then forget about the old UFOs. So for this sweater, I have a ton of this yarn. It's from Knit Crate, Audine Wool's Bloom, and this is the colorway California Poppy. It's 80% alpaca, 10% silk, 10% camel. It's really interesting. It's a chainette. This pattern calls for a DK weight, and this is listed as a DK weight on the label. It looks like bulky when you're looking at it, but then it's a chainette, so when you tug on it a little bit, it does just thin out a lot. I think I bought this when it was on sale at Knit Crate, and I got a 10-pack, so I have more than enough for this sweater. I've got to cake up a bunch more to take with me, but other than that, I'm like ready to go and just jump in the car on Friday and stockinette my way to Florida. Alright, so one more thing. Well, no, let me go over there and grab my yarn, and then I can show you some acquisitions. Actually, before I do acquisitions, I want to talk about my sewing projects, because I have been doing a lot more sewing. Again, I'm not going to show it here. Sorry. I do plan on releasing this video next week, so you'll be able to see it. But, well, I guess next week and the week after that. but I have been sewing the vintage outfits for my husband and I for our trip. So when we go to Universal, we're staying at a kind of retro 50s beach resort themed hotel we're really excited about, and they've got all sorts of little 50s vintage photo ops around the resort. So I wanted to make us, we had the idea to like get vintage outfits and all dress kind of vintage and do a fun photo shoot, but I'm me, so I was like, oh, I'll just sew them, and I bought a couple vintage patterns and some fabric printed up from Spoonflower that's like this really cute, very bright, tropical like leaf print with bananas on it. It's really fun. I bought a pattern, it's a not original, but it's like a remastered 1950s pattern for a men's cabana shirt. And then I bought, it actually was a 1940s pattern, but all of the 50s play suits I saw like were not exactly what I was going for, and I loved all the 1940s play suits. So I think it was like a 1944 or 1946 pattern for a play suit for myself, which is 2 pieces. It's like a skirt that's very full, and then this like kind of tie, they call it like a bra top, but it's, you know, it's kind of just like a crop tied top for our modern purposes. And I already made the cabana shirt and the skirt. I was really, really worried because if you've seen me sew, you know that I'm not super experienced. I tend to screw things up and get frustrated and get kind of bogged down in the whole process. But those 2 projects went so smooth. I cannot believe how well and how quickly I made that cabana shirt. I was on cloud 9 the day I finished that because I was like, I can do anything. I cannot believe I made such a like polished, like finished looking garment in such a short amount of time, and I'm thrilled with it. And then I spent the next day, literally 1 day, making the skirt. No mistakes. I just made a whole skirt in a day. So like, I'm really getting back on the sewing train because my confidence is just boosted from these. That said, I'm making the matching top right now. Again, we leave in like 2 days, so I really need to finish, but I'm like halfway done with the matching top. So I should say the cabana shirt and my skirt are made out of that tropical print fabric, and then the top I just bought a solid green because I thought that might be too much, a 2-piece and like a super busy print. So the top is just a solid green, and it has a lot of scallops. It has scallops all the way on the inside, and then it also has them on the end of the sleeves. So it could be really complicated. I haven't actually gotten to the scallops part yet, but I've got all the pieces cut. I've got a lot of the pieces seamed together. And then I got to the part in the pattern where it talks about seam finishing, and I realized that I should probably pink it. That's probably the best choice for this pattern, and I didn't have any pinking shears. So I kind of had to stop yesterday. My husband picked up my Joann order after work, so now I've got the pinking shears. Later today I will get moving on that again. Hopefully make a lot of progress. Hopefully not make any giant mistakes. There's no wood to knock on. But right now, I'm really moving along on those sewing projects. I'm very enthusiastic. Honestly, worst case scenario, if I screw up the top and don't finish in time, I can just find a blouse that works with the skirt. At least the matching part is done. But yeah, that's coming along. I hope you like check back in the next couple weeks and see those videos because they were really, really fun to make. And like I said, I'm just super happy about it. I'm super confident about my sewing right now, and I hope you like them, and you know, maybe subscribe so that you get a notification when they come out, because I'm really excited about them and I want other people to be excited too. Alright, I do have a couple acquisitions. So, like I said, I'm not buying yarn. I think it was around June 20 something, maybe 23rd, that I said I'm not going to buy yarn until Rhinebeck, which is the second weekend of October. It's October 15th. For the most part, I have stuck to that. And I'm going to justify all the purchases that I have made, and I do believe that I have stuck to that. Like, first of all, I got a couple Knit Crate shipments. I don't count those because I get those all year. And I ended up skipping the September one because I didn't really like the look of the September yarn anyway. So these don't count. So last time I filmed a podcast, I actually did have one of these, and I don't remember which one, but I just forgot to talk about it. So one of the months was Vitalana Silhouette in the colorway Moonrise. It's really drapey. Look at this. It's fingering weight, 50% superwash, 50% tencel. I really love this. This is going to be something so fun. It's super squishy. I love this one. And then this like mint and this very toothpastey. Especially it kind of spiraled around itself in the hank, isn't it? It's Uru Yarn Cotton Basic in the colorway Reflection. And this is 100% Pima cotton, DK weight. Also exciting, something I probably won't get around to using this year because my brain is already in fall and winter, and this is definitely a very summery yarn. But yeah. So those don't count towards my totals because I was always going to get the knit crates anyway. I don't count that as buying yarn because that's a subscription box. But I did technically purchase 2 things. One of them I pre-ordered so long ago that I literally forgot about it, and I got a notification from Jimmy Bean's Wool like a week ago, like your order is getting shipped, and I thought there was a mistake, and I got all weird and like started searching through my emails, like why would they think I ordered something? And when I finally went in and logged into my account, I was like, oh, I did order something. I pre-ordered the Fright Club Halloween Advent Calendar. I've never done one before. Like, again, I'm just like getting into Halloween so much for the first time this year and really, really enjoying it. I usually do a Christmas Advent Calendar, not always yarn. Last year I did a yarn one, but that was a birthday gift from my husband that's quite expensive. So it was very, very gracious of him to get me like such a beautiful, huge gift. But I don't think I'm going to do a yarn advent necessarily every year because that's a lot. But this Halloween one was not nearly as expensive, and it's, 31 days, and I just thought that would be so fun. So it's a nice festive Halloween thing that I'll start on October 1st. Alright. And then the other thing that I technically bought, but I'm not counting, is I pre-ordered some yarn from the Sewrella Autumn in New York collection. I say it doesn't count because, first of all, it's not even going to come until well after my October 15th deadline because it's a pre-order. So that shouldn't count. But I also ended up I wasn't planning on doing it, and then the day of, I found out that I actually won one of the gift cards that they were giving away in the Instagram giveaway, which was really exciting. So I decided that I had to pre-order something because their pre-order is only open for 24 hours, and now I have this gift card, which was for $50, and then I ended up spending $100 on top of that because I talked myself into getting a sweater quantity of one of the colorways. But I stand by it. The only other time I've ever splurged and bought a large quantity, or any quantity of yarn, the only time I've ever bought anything from Sewrella was this yarn, which was part of the Sun-Soaked collection that she did with TL Yarn Crafts. And I genuinely love it. And like as that pre-order for the fall collection was going on, I was starting to wrap up on this project and really enjoying it and really loving how this was turning out. So I thought, yeah, I think I can splurge and pre-order just the one sweater quantity. I got all the same color. It's the color Soho. The description says it's a gray. All of the pictures on her website look a little blue. I hope it's bluer. I think it would be really pretty if it's a kind of grayish pastel blue. Either way, I don't usually invest in solids. I tend to gravitate towards color so much that I don't really have a lot of just solid colored sweaters that I made that are like neutrals. I'm always jealous when I watch other YouTubers, especially like Typical Bliss and like RO Knits and Pearls. They first of all are always wearing like all hand knits all the time because they've done so much stuff, which is great. But they both also have a lot of just basics that they've made for themselves, and I kind of don't do that. I feel like I make things that are very colorful or like special, but then I don't wear them as often because they're kind of flashy. So I talked myself into getting the gray one because I want to make just like a pretty sweater that highlights a special stitch texture that is not all about the color, or it's not variegated or anything. Even though I was super drawn to the highly variegated colors in the fall collection. They were so pretty. I have a lot of variegated hand-dyed that I have a hard time using. So I think that the tonal was the way to go in this situation. I feel like I came into today with like a lot to talk about, and I've been talking a lot right now. I hope I've said everything. I've definitely gone over all my UFOs and my whips and my very small pile of new acquisitions. Talked a little bit about the sewing projects I've been working on, and I think that's everything. I'm absolutely sure that I'm going to turn off the camera and in like 5 minutes think of something that I missed, because that's always the case. I remembered the thing I forgot. It's this Palomar pullover from Evelyn and Peter Crochet that I made to use as a swim cover on vacation. I used 3 skeins of Lion Brand Summer Kiss, which is also a discontinued yarn that I got a very large quantity of at Christmas tree shops a few years ago. I think this is the colorway Quartz. Whatever. So, mostly happy with it. Some of my edges were not as stretchy, so I wish that the sleeves weren't so tight at the top, but it is what it is. I actually sewed the sleeves on upside down on purpose. You can see on the body that the picots point up, and on the sleeves the picots point down, because my, what's that called in crochet? It's not like cast on and bind off. I don't know. My finishing row was much less elastic than my starting row, so I ended up using the starting row for the sleeve because this would not have stretched even this far. It's workable. It's just a swim cover to, you know, casual, I'm thinking off the shoulder thing on top of a swimsuit to walk to and from the water park. So it's really not supposed to be so fancy, but I thought I'd stop in and show you the thing that I knew I was forgetting but couldn't remember what it was 5 minutes ago. Let's think of something that I missed, because that's always the case. But for now, thanks for sitting with me for today. I'm glad that I got a chance to catch up, and check back soon to see all of my tropical, retro, vacation outfits that I've sewn. And hopefully in the near future I'll have more content than usual coming out as I wrap up on all of these like long-term projects that I've been working on. Thanks, and I will see you next time. Bye.